So if Jesus never experienced the emotion of fear as a result of living in a human body, then Hebrews 4:15 is a lie.
A reason why women should not preach. Exhibit A. At the risk of starting a fight between the sexes, let's just be clear and be honest. There are differences between men and women, between males and females, boys and girls. All you simply have to do is just watch them. So to say that women tend to be a little bit more emotional, more cognizant of their feelings, whereas men tend to be more concrete and hands-on, that is not a misstatement. That is absolutely a fact. Is it always the case? Are there some men who are more emotional than others? Are there some women who are more hands-on than others? Sure, but by and large, and this is just how God has created us so that we can be a help to each other. Now, as it relates to a woman being in the pulpit and preaching, the Bible is clear, even though there are those who want to come along and say that they have the right to do so. There are women who are pastors in the Bible. There are none. But I want to go ahead and look at what happens when a woman who, with her emotions, puts her emotions onto Jesus. Women with their emotions want a Jesus who is also emotional like them, and they'll craft speeches, craft sermons to make him look just like how they think he is, or maybe how they were. The first example is a woman by the name of Dr. Anita Phillips. I'm not very sure about her. I guess she has a pretty good following. She's known fairly well. She's been at a lot of the bigger churches and even on Oprah. So take that for what it's worth. But she says something in a sermon at, of all places, Transformation Church. You know, Transformation Church, Mike Todd's Transformation Church.
Yeah, put these over here. The hoes love the hostess. Okay, here we go.
Who at times is not very careful who they bring into the pulpit. And here's an example. She says something that is absolutely ignorant, absolutely silly, foolish. You ascribe the adjective to it. This is what it is.
Fear is a real human emotion. I'm sorry to disappoint you if you thought I was getting ready to tell you how to rebuke the spirit of fear, but I'm not. Jesus experienced it.
Okay, Jesus experienced fear. Where? Give the example. There might be some that are going to want to say, well, when Jesus was in the garden praying, he prayed, he was so fearful of death that he prayed, Lord, take this cup away from him. But we've covered this before, so I don't want to go too far into it, but what he was doing was giving a conditional statement, a statement where the answer is already implied, because remember, there's no one that's there to hear it. And so there's a question on the floor with an answer implied. If it be your will, remove this cup. But what did he already just say previous to that, and even after that, that his job, his goal was to come and do that? And the Bible says that for the joy, he goes to the cross knowing exactly what he's coming to do to fulfill the law. So does Jesus ever show any fear? Well, not that we can say. As a matter of fact, when the disciples showed fear, such as when they were in the boat, what did Jesus do? He rebuked the wind and the waves and then said to them, it's as though you have no faith.
My Bible says we have not a high priest who cannot be touched by the feelings of our infirmities. That word infirmities means human weakness. So we have not a high priest who cannot be touched by the feelings of our human weakness. He was tempted every way, yet without sin. So if Jesus never experienced the emotion of fear as a result of living in a human body, then Hebrews 4:15 is a lie. And I say what? Let every man be a liar, but my God be true. And so it says that he experienced every feeling, then he experienced every feeling. Now I'll stop right there. I don't need to argue with you, because my Bible is true.
Something that Mike Todd said, I think applies here.
You can be saved and stupid. Tweet that. You can be saved and stupid.
Yes, you can be saved and stupid. And what we see now, we see a lot of women, and this may be insulting, but it is what it is. There are a lot of women who will dress up, dress nice, look nice, because to be cute, if you say something dumb, well, the cuteness can override that. So that's why you see women put their best on, and obviously they do that because that's what women want to do. But still, look past what you're seeing and pay attention to what they're saying. For her to make this statement that Jesus is like us, he can sympathize with us, she is so wrong. Let's go to the text and let's put on the screen. In Hebrews 4:14, it says that therefore, since we have a great high priest who has passed through the heavens, Jesus, the Son of God, let us hold fast our confession. Verse 14, for we do not have a high priest who cannot sympathize. Now, this word sympathize, we're going to talk about in just a second, with our weaknesses, but one who has been tempted in all things as we are, yet without sin. So now, according to the text, does Jesus sympathize with us? Sure. Does that mean he's gone through it with us? I'll come back to this text in a second, but I want to go to 1 Corinthians 12:26. Notice what he says. And if one member suffers, all the members suffer with it. If one member is honor, all members rejoice with it. Does that mean that we feel the exact same thing that we know with it. If a member has a child that passes away and we have not, does that mean that we don't suffer with them? Sure, we do. But does it mean that we know what it's like? Maybe we do, maybe we do not. That's not the point that the writer of Hebrews is trying to get, that everything that we have gone through, that so too has Jesus. That is not true.
My Bible says we have not a high priest who cannot be touched by the feelings of our infirmities. That word infirmities means human weakness.
Think about what she's implying, that all the sinful feelings that we've also had. Jesus knows what it's like to long and lust for porn. Can he relate with that? Can Jesus relate with someone who is desiring some sort of drugs or some sort of evil thought, the things that we're tempted with? No, that is not what that means. Yes, he appeared in human form. Yes, he's man, but he's also God. Do not miss that. Apparently she does.
So if Jesus never experienced the emotion of fear as a result of living in a human body, then Hebrews 4:15 is a lie.
So if we go back to the text, it says that we have one who sympathizes. The word sympathize, and I think what's happened is we think that the word sympathize means you have to go through the same thing. No, there is a certain amount of feeling that's put on there, and a person who sympathizes with a person versus someone who empathizes, that person is a little bit closer to the feelings. But go and look what the word means even in English, but even in the Greek, it does not mean that the person has actually gone through those things. It would be a misnomer and a misconception to say that a person can only sympathize if they have gone through the exact same thing. That's not what it says. Notice what it says also, but one who has been tempted in all things as we are. Is he saying that Jesus was tempted in every single way, the same way that we have? If that's the case, then Jesus was tempted with sexual sin. Jesus was tempted with murder. Jesus was tempted with evil thoughts. No, he was not. Remember, it's the same Jesus who tells us that what you think also is also going to be accounted to you. He talks about a person who has not only committed the act of adultery, but even someone who has looked at a woman with lust. And that person is just as guilty. So has Jesus done the same thing? Has he been tempted with the same thing? Well, then that would be that he would also be accredited with sin. Remember, the Bible says that him who, and by the way, we can come back to this passage again, him who knew no sin to be sin on our behalf, he took the place of our sin debt. In other words, he never suffered sin like we did, but he takes the place of it. So he has never sinned, even in word, deed, or even thought. And then back to the passage again, he says that the one who has been tempted in all things as we are, yet without sin. This word I want to go to over here on the right-hand side. I have it underlined and I even highlighted this word, hoimoteta, which is, it's same or similar. This is us. It's a likeness, kind of being something like, resembling like. And so what Jesus was tempted with was similar, was like, but it was not the same. That's the point. Jesus was not, he was tempted in certain ways, but not the same as us. He has not been tempted with everything that I've been tempted with. He has not had the same feelings that I have had. He does not. Plus, if he had the same feelings and thoughts that I've had, he wouldn't be God. He could not die for my sins. Same for you. Some of you had some pretty dark thoughts, some pretty bad thoughts, some pretty disgusting thoughts. That's not him. Some of you are tempted in so many different ways. That's not him. Was he tempted like us? Does he understand what it's like to be physically weak and in need of something physically like we? Sure. Does he understand what it means to be abandoned and to be alone? Sure. But in the same way, though, that we have experienced some of those things, that means that he's experienced all the things that we have gone through. And she should know better. I think she's Dr. So-and-so. And so I don't know what her doctorate's in. I have no idea. But it clearly isn't understanding the scriptures well enough.
And I say what? Let every man be a liar, but my God be true. And so it says that he experienced every feeling, then he experienced every feeling. Now I'll stop right there. I don't need to argue with you.
And you can stop right there. You don't have to argue with this because you're wrong. You do not know what the Bible says.
We love to rebuke fear, but I've never heard anybody rebuke fear when a bear was chasing them. Can we be for real here? Because we are wasting so much faith energy trying not to feel.
It's almost as though that what she's projecting on the text is herself, her own emotion, or she's trying to make a connection with men and women in the audience. Well, no one's saying that you shouldn't feel anything, but what you shouldn't do is sin based on the feelings and try to also imply that whatever sinful or fearful thoughts, she said fearful because we can't find a text where Jesus feared anything, is to project our feelings, our emotions on the text, or even more to the point, on Jesus. These women with their emotions, putting these same emotions in the Bible, we've got a recipe for disaster. Now, not to be outdone, we've got someone else she's going to say something dumb. Now, you be the judge as to which was dumber. I think that this lady is slightly in the lead. I think what she says is just, she's clueless and doubtful, even saved. She could be. Can't say she is or can't say she isn't. What she is not is very smart as it comes to the scriptures. She does not know her Bible. And listen to how she takes, again, her emotions, what's happening in the world. She seems to be pretty progressive. As a matter of fact, not seems to be. She is progressive. But listen to what she has to say about Jesus.
We're talking about that kind of body coming to Jesus. And then called a dog.
What she's bringing up is when Jesus speaks to the Canaanite woman, or some versions might say the Syrophoenician woman, and she wants healing for her daughter, and Jesus calls her a dog. This is the point. This is the text that she's in.
So no, I won't settle for an interpretation that says Jesus is testing this woman's faith just to pat her on the back and say, good job, you passed. That's insulting. It's not inviting. It's not the kind of relationship I want with the divine. And yet, that kind of Jesus, that above approach Jesus, appeals to those who can't risk having an imperfect teacher.
Now, look what she's saying. She's trying to make Jesus out to be an imperfect teacher because he calls her dog. She doesn't like that. She doesn't like the fact that, one, she calls a woman a dog. Well, he wasn't necessarily calling her a dog if she actually knew her Bible, but I understand that can be, it's confused some people in the past. He's not calling her a dog. He's making a point. Oh, by the way, one of the two Hebrew spies, Joshua and Caleb. Caleb was not an original Jew. He's not an ethnic Jew, but his name is Caleb. I don't know if he was named that or not. Maybe he was given that name. Maybe he took it himself. The reason why I said that, because the Hebrew name for Caleb literally means dog. But he wore that clearly as a badge of honor. That's who he is. That's who he was. And so he's not saying anything negative about her. He's trying to make a point between Israel and those who are not Israel. And even still, what does he end up doing? Even blessing her because of her faith.
Who can't risk shaking up long withheld notions of who Jesus is. Who can't risk challenging today's oppressive Christian theologies. What does that say about us? That we would accept that kind of Jesus.
Well, the kind of Jesus that you accept determines if you are saved or not. You cannot create a Jesus of your own. You can't make him up to be whoever you think he is. He is who he is. And if you don't like it, well, then fine. Find another God. Go be with Allah. Go be with Confucius. Go be with some other faith. But you cannot be a Christian and then you determine who Jesus is because you simply did not like the way or the manner or what he said.
At this point in his ministry, Jesus was tired. He left by boat to go be alone, only to be followed by hundreds. He faced growing needy crowds, hostility from religious authorities, and growing distress from the disciples, all at once. By the time W found him, he had distanced himself both physically and emotionally.
I don't know what she means by W. I'm going to assume woman, I guess. I don't know. I have no idea.
And Jesus, and his full humanity, was tired. He was in his own kind of way hurting. He wasn't his best self.
See what I mean? We're going to put her emotions, onto him. That's a problem. He was in his own way hurting. What does the text say so? And he wasn't his best self. Yeah, I'm going to go out on a limb and say she's not a Christian. I'm going to go out on a limb and say she's not a Christian. It's hard to imagine. She could be. I could be wrong. But I think I'm pretty safe, at least at this moment. She's not. If she is, she's not a very good one. At least not a very smart one, especially as it relates to the text.
You can be saved and stupid. Tweet that. You can be saved and stupid.
To say that Jesus was not at his best self, I would venture to say, I would have to say that he was at his best self. To go through what he's going through and to still not sin and to still do exactly what he came to do, to save humanity or to offer salvation, to shed his blood. Yeah, he was at his best self.
And in such times, we know what happens, don't we? Hurt people. Hurt people.
Okay, this is goofy. This is goofy. Yeah, what the other lady said earlier was dumb. What she says is just dumber. Hurt people, that's Jesus, hurt people. So he's hurt, and so he's hurting other people. Clearly she's has some experience in life that she doesn't like, and so now she is again projecting her emotions and others, I would add, to the text and to Jesus.
Now, when we say that hurt people, we are not excusing behavior. We are trying to make sense of it. This story is a reminder of Jesus' humanity. The Gospel of Luke tells us that Jesus grew in wisdom. He didn't always get it right. He didn't start out knowing everything. He was in process, just like us.
He didn't always get it right. Well, give an example of one thing he got wrong. Well, I guess her thinking that him calling this woman a dog, that was wrong also. And no, he was not in process like us. He's not like us. That's the point. He is nothing like us. Yes, he had skin. He had eyeballs. He had hair. He was a human being, but he's also God. That's where the similarities depart. What you don't want to do, because again, we talked about it before, he who knew no sin became sin, so clearly he didn't sin. What you don't want to do is, as God says, do not create a God of your own. This is what's happening. People are creating a God of their own, one that looks like them. And so, ladies, maybe you might need to scream a little bit louder at these other women who are doing something. Not that they don't have the ability to. There are women who have the ability to get up and speak and to be effective at it. But that's clearly out of order if you're going to do so in the pulpit, teaching and leading over the congregation. You are not allowed to do so. Not my words, his word. Maybe there's something else that she would have an issue with, or the other lady would have an issue with. A lot of people, even more and more men, are the same thing, going through the same thing, thinking that it's okay. It's sad when we're running out of people who want to defend the text and defend the Bible and God for what he says. But this is what we have. And so again, this is just me saying that these are bad examples, or I should say good examples of why women should not be in the pulpit.